समाचार में आपका स्वागत है।
You would recall that way back in October 2019, that is pre-COVID times, on the recommendations of the Commission, the concept of absentee voters was introduced, and it was used very effectively in Delhi at that time. After that, in the elections in Bihar, postal ballot facility has been extended as an option to senior citizens aged 80 and above. We were wanting to extend it to people from 65 and above. Political parties had their own views, but ultimately what clinched the argument of not going for that this time is that because of the increase in the number of polling stations, already our manpower requirements had increased so significantly that we realized we may not be able to manage the 65 part. So it remains 80 years. Persons with disability backed in the electoral roll and COVID-19 suspect or affected persons all shall be taken care of, and in that we are following regarding the COVID-19. Even in Rajya Sabha, one or two MLAs who were suspected, they had to cast their votes at the very end after everybody else had gone through the voting process. Special protocol has been, there is also a facility of postal ballots wherever required or wherever asked for. We will also be deploying a lot of teams to ensure this process, as have been employed, and that we get a lot of cooperation. I am wanting to tell you that we get a lot of cooperation from civil society. We have been getting in the past, and I am sure we will get now also. Special protocol has been devised for electors who are COVID positive, suspect, quarantined, so that such citizens are able to exercise their franchise without in any way jeopardizing the health of other voters. COVID-19 patients who are quarantined will be able to cast their vote at the last day of the hour, poll day, at their respective polling stations, as I said earlier, under the supervision of health authorities, strictly following the laid down measures. This is besides the option of postal facility already extended to them. Nodal health officers will also be appointed at the state district level to oversee COVID-19 related arrangements and preventive measures during the entire electoral process. In order to further decongest polling spaces and allow more free movement of the voters, polling time has been increased. Polling time has been increased by 1 hour. Polling will now be held from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. instead of 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. earlier. However, this will not be applicable to the left-wing affected areas. Nomination form and affidavit can now be filled up online and printouts submitted to RO. Offline is also allowed, but online is also been introduced. Besides all this, security money can also be deposited through online mode. Candidates can also seek electoral certification digitally. The number of persons accompanying a candidate for submission of nomination has been restricted to 2. I repeat 2. And the number of vehicles shall be restricted to 2. I repeat 2. Door-to-door campaigning has been restricted to 5 persons, including the candidate. Road shows are allowed, subject to the convoy being broken after every 5 vehicles. All election meetings and gatherings will have to adhere strictly to the health and safety protocols and shall be monitored at all levels by the election and health machinery in the field in the various districts of Bihar. I want to dispel doubts, friends, that all physical contact has been prohibited in election meetings and campaigning. In fact, the very fact that instead of talking to each other virtually today, we still have made an effort to at least talk in person is an indication from the side of Election Commission that all this propaganda going on in certain sections, that only virtual campaigning will happen, etc., has been quite widely off the mark. Yes, we have stated that the number of people who can decongest who can congregate at a certain place has been limited. The DEOs shall identify dedicated grounds in advance where public gatherings can take place with social distancing norms clearly marked to ensure the safety of the attendants. I must report to you that already this exercise has been completed by DEOs. In fact, even within the commission now, we have a list of such grounds available district-wise, although this is not for commission to kind of take any kind of day-to-day call on this. It is for the CEO and the district magistrates. But we have got all the information. And the DEOs have been instructed to kind of already do the circling, etc., as per the COVID norms. That has been done by the CEO of Bihar. A committee of officers was set up at the commission to chalk out broad guidelines for conducting elections amid COVID. This committee was chaired by Shri Umesh Sinha, Secretary General, and it had various stakeholders, many of them contacted virtually, and they had detailed deliberations with the chief electoral officers of various state UTs just to have a feedback or various suggestions and inputs. The commission also took inputs of political parties. They were initially given some time, they wanted some more time, which was had, and the commission had a feedback from all the political parties with us, considering all the relevant factors and circumstances and keeping in view the safety norms specified by MHA. Broad and detailed guidelines were issued by the commission for the conduct of elections and by-elections during sometime in August 2020. These guidelines have already been adopted to Government of Bihar, and these guidelines are available on the ECI website, and I think made available to most of you by Ashifali ji. Based on these broad guidelines, CEO Bihar was asked to prepare comprehensive plans at the state, district, constituency and booth level, considering the local conditions and COVID conditions and COVID situation. And these guidelines establish standard protocols of sanitization, wearing of masks, use of gloves, thermal scanners, and social distancing throughout the gamut of election activities. As the gradual and phased unlock has been initiated in various parts of the country, several meetings were held, as I said earlier, at the level of Secretary General ECI Shri Umesh Sinha and all other colleagues from ECI and officers of commission with officials from MHA, railways, central agencies regarding security forces, strategic and communication measures to be put in place. I am happy to report to you that we are getting fullest cooperation from all these agencies, and I am sure, like they do it always, they'll give us their cooperation this time also, which they are already extending. The Commission has conducted several rounds of video conferences with the election machinery. A team of 2 officers, namely Shri Chandrabhushan, who is in charge of Bihar in the Election Commission, and Shri Sudeep Jain, who looks after the EVM, they were in Bihar on 14th and 15th September, and they have done extensive review of the situation on the ground by holding more than 1 meetings in Patna as well as in some selected divisional headquarters. They have reported that all necessary preparations have been made and the infrastructure of conduct of elections is well in place. Commission, as you are aware, has always been very sensitive to the persons with disability and senior citizens. We started this process way back in 1718 by having a conference in Rajasthan, then a national level conference in Delhi, and after that we have been trying to kind of upgrade and try to do various things required for that. One of our leading consultants in this, based out of Bangalore, she herself is disabled, but at the same time she is so very meticulous in terms of making suggestions and kind of more scientific innovations, which keeps Shri Umesh Sinha and his team busy. Persons, the first thing Commission has been insisting is that all polling stations should be located on the ground floor. Persons with disability would also be tagged to their respective polling stations and necessary arrangement made for their comfortable and convenient experience on polling day. Assistance of volunteers, priority voting, wheelchair and proper transport facilities shall be made available. They will be provided with a free pass on public transport on the poll day.
हमारा वीडियो आपको पसंद आए तो लाइक कीजिए, शेयर कीजिए, सब्सक्राइब कीजिए, कमेंट करना मत भूलिए।